This is Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. Make the time to subscribe. Now let's pull back those sheets.
Can we talk about the relationships? Can we talk it over, see how we can build? Only you and I know that's the way it goes. In this big old bed, they'll talk it over, so talk it over. Can we talk it over? We can talk it over. Can we talk it over in bed? Talk it over. Can we talk it over? Can we talk it over? Oh, in bed.
This is your man, Big O, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Tricia, and you are listening to Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. And because of the ongoing pandemic that we all are engrossed in, we are honoring our social contract, and we are all in our own respective beds, but nonetheless, we are here to bring you another hot topic on Talk It Over. Trish, what's happening? How are you today?
Listen, I am good. I took this weekend, this like long 4-day weekend, and I've done nothing. I have literally, let me tell you, I've stayed in my bed for about 2 days straight. I've gotten up, cooked dinner, got back in my bed.
So you never left the big old bed.
I never left the big old bed this week. It was, like sometimes when you go, and then it's like your
You
brain
get a minute to stop.
after dinner, go home and get in your bed. And literally that is where I stayed. So
So some people would call that the itis.
Hush. Okay, hush. We call it a lot of different things. I'm going to say it was my reset to face this upcoming week.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not. So,
Yeah, what about you? How was Thanksgiving? How was family?
oh, I didn't want to test the waters. I stayed home. I didn't visit my family this time around. My family is in North Carolina, so it was not, I'll be going towards the end of this year. So I decided to just chill. But let's get into the topic and the feel good story. And then we're going to bring in our fellow guests. We got some returning faces that I'm excited to hear from on this topic. And I'm glad that they're here with us. But I'm going to go ahead and bring in the feel good story today. Tricia, if you're ready.
All right, let's do it.
All right. So this news is coming out of Columbus, Ohio. All right. A sanitation worker named Jaquez, I hope I'm saying that right, Jaquez Worthy, is recounting the story of how he was actually in an altercation that made him start to diminish himself. I'm gonna give you a little background. He moved to Columbus about 5 years ago on his own while he was still a teenager. He is currently 22, and he left what he described as a less than ideal family life, and he decided to move to Columbus. So what happened one night last year, he and his girlfriend were enjoying a night out, and outside the bar, 3 drunk patrons started to harass them. He tried to keep the peace. They weren't interested in being reasonable, and one of them assaulted him, punched him in the face, and broke his front teeth. Now, anyone that knows Jaquez, according to the story, knows they describe him as electric. He's the kind of person that gets all of people's attention. He emotes a cheerfulness, an attitude, and a kindness with everyone he meets. After this altercation, he noticed that he himself started to diminish in his own spirit, right? So he didn't take advantage of the insurance at his job. He said he wished he would have, because the altercation actually knocked his front teeth out and he had shattered teeth. So he wasn't smiling as much anymore. He wouldn't tell as many jokes because it was a big subconscious thing about his teeth missing that he thought people were obviously going to notice. So he went back to work, didn't really say much. And then what happened is the community actually learned about the encounter, and they decided to rally around him. And what they did was they actually started a GoFundMe setup for him, because he found out that the cost to repair his teeth would cost about $9,000. So the community set up a GoFundMe page for him, and they were able to raise at 3,700 on one Sunday evening. After that, they were able to get the rest of the amount, and these all money started pouring in from total strangers, people that he didn't even know he touched because of this exuberance that he carried with him to work. As a sanitation worker, his responsibility was to go and get the garbage, but he always tried to brighten up people's day on his way. One of the one of the neighbors that actually knows Jaquez recounted a story of when she was driving her 15-year-old son to cross country, which is an early hour. So they got stopped behind the garbage truck that Jaquez was actually working on. He jumped off the back of the truck and immediately started dancing. She says, I think he may have done the moonwalk across the street. He ended his dance with a flourish and a wave, letting her know that it was safe to pass and be on their way. And she said by then she was laughing. Her son, who didn't want to be in the car to begin with, is laughing, and that made their day. And it said just similar encounters like that. And once they set up a page on Facebook, everybody else started chiming in with the encounters that Jaquez, that they had with Jaquez that actually brightened up their day just by who he is. So I thought this was an amazing, amazing story, especially in the season of giving, that this community could rally around this young man who moved to Columbus a stranger, and just has this electric aura about him that whoever he comes across, they just feel 10 times better. And after learning about his altercation, they decided to chip in and help him have the procedure to fix his smile. So with that being said, do y'all feel good? Let me bring in my guest here.
That actually it's an awesome story. Yeah.
It took a minute to feel good. I was like, damn, where's the feel good? brother was getting
Once we
beat
got
down.
there. Yeah.
I was looking at Robin like, he did say feel good, right?
But we do feel good now at the end of it. If
Yeah.
everybody that's listening, that is, let me go ahead and introduce that man that you hear speaking, Mr. Changa Bell, an exuberant soul himself, always
times.
coming in, bringing in at times, but most of the time. And then also we have another returner, a veteran of the podcast that I would like to say, Miss Robin. Welcome back.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me. Good to be
So
back.
how was your guys' holidays?
Hey, well, it's still going.
I was
Okay.
gonna say, it's only Sunday. It's like I'm racing out of here to go meet my granddaughter before she leaves. I was like with you having quiet birthdays. So I had 3 of them between Wednesday and today.
Woo!
And
3
it was
birthdays.
like yesterday, I was at the park playing Foursquare with my little granddaughter and skateboarding. And I don't know, Thursday we all made cake and virtually did it and all ate our own and made pigs out of ourselves to have it, because my kids are in California, and we all ate together on Thanksgiving. I thought I was going to be alone, to be honest with you. I sat out on my son's deck and ate out there with my ex-husband, and we virtually did it with my kids in California. We came back and played games.
Beautiful.
I went scavenger hunt all by
Beautiful.
myself in this big old house.
So did you hide the items from yourself and then go back and find them as well?
I did not. We all had to come up with them. And here's the funny part. I came up with my 5, but I didn't have any of them. So I didn't really know they were going to be picked to be on the list. And I was going to have to go find them. But I seemed to run around 3-story house by myself when everybody else had groups of people, and I still won. So, you know what?
Beautiful.
Beautiful. I'm behind.
I'm glad that all of you guys have had such a wonderful, wonderful holiday season, especially in the time that we are in. It's great to have that anytime, but especially with what's going on this year. So, Trish, are we ready to let our listeners know what we're going to be talking about today?
Absolutely.
I think this is going to I hope this gets contentious. And if it doesn't, I'm going to make it contentious because.
All right. So today's topic is, do men understand women better than women understand men?
Changa, you got to be on my side, Changa.
Listen,
Back me up, Changa.
you might want to
I already know I don't understand women. So
So repeat the question.
All right. So again, the question is, do men understand women better than women understand men?
Woo! This is a juicy topic. Does anybody want to take this one to go in first?
I will.
Let's go. Let's hear it.
personally feel that men are more easily understood than women. And I think that way because I think men are just a little bit more logical in their thinking. So they can be direct to the point. And then us women feel like you're not getting the underlying feeling here. You're not understanding the meaning. You're not reading between the lines. Mm-hmm. We're all fuzzy. And I like to think that I'm direct, but then I also realize, and I know how indirect I can be too.
So, okay, I hear that. Trish, you got anything you want to?
I actually have to agree with Robin. I had this conversation actually earlier last week, and I feel like the week before, but I know I've had the same conversation multiple times. I feel like women are more emotional by nature. So because we're more emotional, sometimes that logic portion, that reason, doesn't necessarily come through the same way it does for men. Like I feel like for y'all, it's black or white. It's either it is or it isn't. For us, it's like, but
there's a lot of gray area.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of room for interpretation. It's as simple as when we say fine. Like we could be in the middle of a conversation. I say fine. Okay. That can have like 4 or 5 different meanings to it. It could be like, okay, don't call me no more. Okay.
But you didn't say that. You didn't tell me not to call
conversation.
You. You said okay. So I'm gonna call you again. Don't be mad at me for misinterpreting. I don't like. Yeah, I think what you said, the reading between the lines, is something that's very, very foreign to myself and my male counterparts, because socially we were told, we were brought up to say what you mean what you say, and be one of the colloquialisms, the man of your word. All right. Mm-hmm. So if you say it, stand by it, and that is something that is oftentimes stands in our way when dealing with someone, male or female, who can have multiple meanings behind their words. All right. Changa, you got anything? You agree?
No, I mean, generally body language, like when Tricia was talking, I was even looking at her body language. So I think with women, you do have to really interpret their eyes, body language, tone. And then, women don't like to be found out, because even when you make a good understudy and you start to learn those hidden cues and you get it dead on, then they be like, well, you don't know me, don't act like, so it'll still be a point of contention.
So even more confusion.
Kango, why you know me? Like, how do you know me so well?
So here's
it's a lose-lose no matter what.
Yeah. How do you know me? Or don't act like you know me.
Don't act like you know me, okay?
Right.
So
or they do something different just because you did get it on. They be like, well, you don't know me, I'm gonna go out and do this, So it's a lot.
So then in that stance, right? And from that stance, is it who has the harder task in a quote unquote relationship? Who and let's for illustration purposes, let's make it heterosexual, even though we know there are other forms of relationships. But for this example, let's make it a heterosexual. Who has the harder task? If men are more understandable, then do women have the easier task of understanding and learning their mate, or does men have the double duty? Because it's like, I understand me, I can't understand you.
I think women have it harder because men are petty. Men are petty as hell, and
women not petty.
No, we're more petty than them, and because it's not more socially.
But small petty.
No, it's just not put out there. It's not put out there as much. Uh-huh. So, women are caricaturized, grabbing air, all this stuff. So, we can kind of pick up on the cues, but they don't know our cues. We know our cues. We can look at another dude and know when he's in his feelings or what's going on. I don't think women understand that, because we're just as misdirecting. Sometimes we're like, oh, no, it's all good. And they were like, oh, when he said it's all good. And we know damn well it ain't all good. So I'd say they have, if it isn't equal, they may have the harder job, just in my opinion.
See, I've had the opposite. If I say it's all good, it never stops there. It has to keep going. And I'm like, yo, I was off this 5-10 minutes ago. I'm good. But the argument of the issue has to keep unraveling.
That's because they know you're not all good. You say it, but they know damn well you and you're feeling some kind of way, and they trying to get it out. And the more they try to get it out, the more locked down we become, and then we make it really fighting. Like I said,
we're gonna hold that line.
Yeah, we try to get all on it, but really, that's what I'm saying. Another guy watching. Once they would end that conversation, we'd be like, "Oh, we got called. Oh, you know that double ninja ain't feeling this." So, we already know, but so they may not know. They may be clueless to that whole thing.
So then, wouldn't that also be the case if women say they're fine and the guy's like, "Oh, okay, she says she's fine."
But y'all, well, we're not fine because it's usually. I feel like women, we might say we're fine, but then now you got to watch our body language, our cues. Are we acting like it's fine? Like, is there a deeper, like, is there a dark energy in the room? Is it very negative to be around, like a negative space to be around? It's like, you got to take all those cues into consideration.
Mm.
I feel like we say we're fine because we don't want to argue anymore. It might be petty. It might be stupid. Like, let's just move on from it. But I still feel some kind of way because I haven't felt heard. Story time, because y'all know I always got a story.
Did this happen recently?
Like, no, this happened this morning.
So recently.
Well, yeah.
See, I can't even have a conversation without doing this. Look at this. So
I'm dead serious. So actually, okay, so last night my significant other went to a fight party, whatever. And I was out and about as well. So when he called, I didn't answer. And he texted me and said, I'm headed this way. Okay, no problem. Have fun. Call me when you get home. When I was done, when I was done doing what I need to do and I was home, I video called him. Because that's just, what we normally do, not thinking anything. And he texted me and was like, I told you I was out. I'm sorry, sir. Who are you talking to? Right? So this is the first place I went. So we said what we said. I went to bed. He went to bed. We, both, or he was where he was and I just went to bed. This morning, he's just messaging me like everything's off, fine and, dandy. And he's like, is something wrong? And I was like, yes. And so we began to have this conversation. I ended the conversation by saying, okay. Like, literally, that was the end of the conversation. Like, I still am upset. So basically he was like, well, if I tell you I'm out, then I don't expect for you to call me. It's like you're checking up on me. And I was like, I'm not checking up on you. I literally just called to tell you I was home. Like, he's like, it was almost like, he's like, you don't expect when I'm out with other, when I'm out, when doing stuff with my frat brothers and this and that and the third. And I was just like, sir, how did you get all of that for me calling to say goodnight? So to end the argument, I literally just said.
See what I mean? Oh, that's why I say it's harder now. You and I, we don't know what happened for sure. But if you had to speculate one of three things, why did that brother answer like, I told you I was out at that moment? Why did he do that? If you had to speculate, what are one of three things?
Oh, well, the first thing that goes through our heads is, oh, what bitch, excuse me.
No, let the brother answer. Let's see what the man says.
All right. There's several. All right, but one of three. One.
But the top three or the top two.
Top three.
Didn't pick up the phone.
All right. Number one of the top three is possibly he doesn't. What's it called? Whipped, I guess. Like you don't. I don't respond when you tell me to respond. I'm my own person. I respond when I want to respond. He wants to be the alpha, the dominant. The other one might be he's in mixed company. All right. He's among other people that he may or may not want to appear that he's on the phone with some significant other. All right. So that's two. You want to drop the third one, Shanka? Did I get the top two or three?
No, I mean, that's the top two. And see, and women know that. Women know that, but then we try to convolute what's really happening by doing some other, mystical, like smoke and mirrors. But it's like one of two things. Either he might not even be pushing up on who's around him, but he already know, like, oh, it's females around me, some women around me. I don't want to open this video call because she's gonna get an attitude.
Or it's a video call.
Yeah,
it was a video call.
Or two, it's like because he's with his boys, he just don't want to seem like he's emasculated and like You know, because as soon as you pick up, after you hang up, they're gonna be like, damn, yo, she be video chatting you. And,
I'm my own man. Yeah, exactly.
So it's usually those two.
One of those two.
And on the flip side, Tricia know that before she video chat. She knows she's just being petty. She's just being petty. She's just trying to like, let me test the waters. Like, don't test no waters. Don't test no waters.
But it wasn't worthy. Okay, but even if that was the case, which it wasn't.
It was the case.
Even if that wasn't the case.
Don't act like you know me.
Don't act like you know me. The whole purpose behind it was, you know, when we got into this argument, like literally it ended with fine. Now on his end, I'm sure he's saying, you know, oh, she's over it. Okay, it's over and it's done. But truthfully, it's not done. Like, I feel like there's not, like, now we need to have a deeper conversation about respect levels and what is your expectation? Like, but do we do that how do we do that without losing that communication that we have? Because I don't, you know what I mean? I don't want to have to go, you know, I don't want to be petty. I don't want to be mean about it, but I do feel some kind of way. And until we get to the root of the problem, that fine is going to linger. It's not going to, you know, we're not going to clear that air.
Robin, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Oh, man,
both sides. You're neutral. You're neutral.
I'm all over the place right now. I'm trying to even remember what Changa said. I was with you, Changa, until you said men are petty. The reason I was thinking first I'm thinking men have a harder time because we're so damn confusing. But
that's what I think.
But then I thought, no, that's too simple. I really think women have a harder time simply because we are so confusing. And because we're so confusing, I think we expect.
I'm confused by that statement.
I think we expect you or our partners to get us, to be able to read that shady stuff between the lines, right?
I think that's a bit of both.
That because we struggle and we have a harder time, we still carry that on, even like Tricia said, regardless of what the situation is, we still carry that on, where I feel like men are much easier at, okay, so we good? We good. Put it under the rug, dial it down. You're done. It's off. It's off. We're starting a new chapter, right? We're going on about our business, and we're still, it just doesn't go away. I don't know why. We got these extra
now
in our brain.
Is that for everything or?
Well, no, that's for everything.
It's for like big things.
Pretty much for everything.
Everything.
Pretty much for everything. And here's now I'm going to scientifically try to validate it a little bit. You know, it's kind of proven that women are better multitaskers, right? Just because we have to, there's a lot of things that you got to do all in one.
On top of,
time, right?
Yeah.
We don't compartmentalize as much as men do. So that kind of makes me think, well, so we got all that stuff going on that we're able to cross over and deal with. Maybe that's why we store all that stuff. I don't know. I don't know scientifically or physically really what it is, but I think it's more challenging for us, but I think it's more challenging for us. Like, I wish I could just be like, okay, we're good and be done. I wish. I wouldn't have to dye my hair as often as I do. Like, seriously, I think it would be so nice to be able to do that.
I'm with Robin 100% on that. I feel like with women, you know, again, a lot of it for me, I feel like we want to be pleasing, like we want to please. We want to make other people around us comfortable and happy. When we get into these spaces, and I know I say this specifically for me, when I feel like I've disrupted the status quo or the energy that the space that we're living in, and I feel like an argument does that, I begin to take on that negative energy and I hold it and store it. Like, I feel physically like bad, you know, and I'll see he will physically move on and just be happy and in the space. But now I feel like, well, is this your true self? Are you moving on so that we can move on? Or, you know, like, I begin to think all these different scenarios. And a lot of times, I mean, I feel like, again, like Robin said, you know, we're compartmentalizing. We're trying to figure out what is the truth of the situation. What is the truth of the matter? Where is the space that we actually live in? And because a lot of times y'all don't talk, I'm pointing at the two of y'all don't talk, that it becomes harder for us to figure it out. Or when you do speak, you're not exactly giving us the full entire truth. I feel like it's always a half truth or enough to pacify the situation so that we're able to move on. But
maybe, yeah, sometimes, but then sometimes y'all creating that in your own heads. Sometimes it is just exactly what we said it is. So I'm not saying you're wrong, but then often you got to also be aware of how your own mind can start to make what they say like a mountain out of a molehill, where it's like, hey, this was the issue. The issue is now solved, or I've moved on from it. But then because, like you said, the inability to compartmentalize, it's like, no, that can't just be it. It has to be more complex, and that might be coming from yourself. That might be coming from your own perception and story that you're writing about whatever in your mind. All right. Real quick, I want to, and before we take a quick break for a word from our sponsors, one of the things that Anna Banana, our producer, likes to do is often whatever the topic is we're speaking on is coming up, she gives us a little bit of information, sometimes hilarious, some anecdotal information from the intraweb. That's the internet. So this article is coming from scienceofpeople.com. Tips for dating women. Why women are so complicated. And that's the title of the article. Now, before we say anything, a woman wrote this. Okay. So a woman wrote this article. It starts off saying women can often be unpredictable. They regularly don't understand the choices, or she doesn't regularly understand the choices of her female friends, like her mother, her sister. But she says, speaking as a woman, she has a little window into the world. And her tips, she's offering tips for dating women. And she says, number one, women do the opposite of what they say. And she's basing this off of a show that I've never heard of. Have you guys ever heard of Dating in the Dark? Have you ever heard of this TV show?
Yes.
No.
Yes. Who said yes? Yes. Have you watched this?
I watched the clip that Anna sent out. That was interesting.
Is it so you've heard of this, Tricia?
Yeah, I have.
Prior to Anna, have you watched any of this?
I watched a little bit of it, but I heard of it and thought it was a very.
What's the concept for people? Because I've never heard of this.
So basically, it's two people that meet and they never see each other. So they are dating without the physical stimulus, usually attract us. So, you don't know what the person looks like. All you have is their voice to go off of, and it's building a connection based off of that. So it forces you to be a little bit more truthful in the connection that you're making, because you can't see the person. So they can't see your physical cues. They can't see your facial expressions. They can't see anything. It literally is just the sound of your voice and communication through that. I thought it was a very good concept. I mean, there's been a couple of shows that have spun off of that. There was one on Netflix.
Blind, Love is Blind, something like that.
Yeah, which I also thought was very good, where people were meeting between like a wall, a transparent wall between them, and they were falling in love and literally dating each other, through like basically through a wall. You on one side, I'm on another. I don't know what you look like. I can't read your social cues. It literally is just conversation. It's a very interesting experiment.
So the thing that she uses this show as kind of her fodder for this article is that she is basically describing what happens on the show and using that to kind of prop up her take. Women do the opposite of what they say is one. Women pick the same man over and over again, which I found was interesting. And then body language. Body language says, as what Chenga was alluding to, body language is often more important than what the verbal communication that is coming out. And so for people out there who are still dating or new into a relationship, that's that reading between the lines, right? That's that you said one thing, but you want another thing. You say one thing, but your body language is saying something different. I thought it was very interesting about the women pick the same man over and over again. That kind of speaks a little bit to psychology, saying, we're creatures of habit. We're creatures of our patterns. And if we don't recognize our patterns, how can we then consciously make another choice? But I definitely want to hear from what you guys, Tricia and Robin and Chenga as well, think about the anecdotal points that she brought up. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break, have a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back
Every young person deserves the chance to succeed despite the circumstances into which they were born. My name is Robin Nestler, and together with a Ugandan woman, we founded Set Her Free, a non-profit organization that gives young girls and women in Uganda that chance. Choice is a luxury for many girls, but with the right tools and an opportunity, they're able to lead self-determined lives, to transform their future. Look for us at setherfree.org and help us to empower the next generation of Ugandan women. Thank you. You are listening to Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed.
All right, welcome back to Talk It Over. One of the topics that Trish, let our listeners know the topic of the day.
The topic of the day is, do men understand women better than women understand men?
And we all agree that the answer is yes, right? Is that what we came to the conclusion?
No.
No. I'm the only one that believes the answer is yes.
Well, look, it starts off fallacious. I mean, even somebody alluded to psychology before the break. Psychology is male dominated. It's like, until we give the other side, if you will, equal weight, who's making the standard that we're measuring it up to. So I think it just comes down to acceptance. If we just accept that women are like what these women are saying they are like, and then if women could accept that men are like the way they say they're like, we could appreciate the differences, and it'll drive you up a wall. 9 times out of 10, I have that same argument, that kind of stuff that Trish was talking about. I don't call her crazy or something like that against like a Freudian perspective, a Jungian perspective, all these male perspectives. I just say, start to notice the fundamental differences between men and women, and then that's why you want it. Otherwise, you'd have to be, maybe homosexual, or you'd have to be driven by something else. If you want that masculine energy, if you want her to be like a man, maybe you need to check yourself. Maybe you want a man. But I appreciate the sort of roundabout way that drives up my blood pressure and probably takes 5 years off my life within this marriage. Just what it is.
It is what it is.
There's that whole, you can't live with them, you can't live without them. But you know what? Yeah. The same choices are made over and over again, and not, unless you have a different choice, obviously. But we can bitch till the cops come home. But the fact remains is that, I want a man in my life, and hopefully that man wants a woman in his. But I also think, and maybe this is a different way to look at it, and maybe for younger people that are having kids or whatever, because I don't know really how to do that. But I do believe that from an early point, like childhood, I think boys and girls are, I don't know if they're necessarily taught, because I don't really remember teaching my kids. I think we just teach by example, that's how we are. But I think that they are taught, directly or indirectly, different ways to approach conversation and languages and solving them. And so I think that's what leads us into our adulthood. And now now my daughters are going to be like me, and my, you know what I mean? And not, completely to the T, but I think it just keeps on going. So the question would be, is there a different way to approach that with our kids? Because I wouldn't know the answer to that. And the other question would be, do we really have to? Because it does make us unique in our own ways, right? So, I don't know.
I'd say let's get off that wheel, Robin, because I agree with you 100%. It's modeling. It's a saying that says when you change yourself, you can change all of humankind.
Right.
So yeah, when we're children, we watch mom get cut off by dad all the time. We watch, so then the brothers cut the sisters off all the time, and then that becomes a huge problem. I just recently saw President Obama talking to the Breakfast Club about that, how the women would come to him and say, yo, can you get your people? They'd be disrespecting me in meetings, and they cut me off. So even something as simple as that, is men not giving women a platform to just fully express their thoughts, that's definitely modeled.
Right.
So, I don't think that's one of the differences. I think that creates a bigger problem. So if we could check ourselves and become more aware of that, then sure, that would make for some improvements, I think, somewhere.
So I have a question. So basically what it sounds like to me is that these women do not feel, me included, do not feel like they're in a safe environment to be able to express themselves where their voices will be heard. Do we feel like that is the general consensus with our society, that women aren't given the ability or women aren't allowed an open platform to express themselves and fully express themselves without being judged?
I don't want to speak in general terms because I think there is a broader issue, which you've all brought up, is the lack of a safe space to be able to authentically express yourself. But I also think a little bit of that comes from, like Changa was alluding to, is that the matriarchal, the patriarchal dominated society has, for all intents and purposes, once they feel like, what's the point? Because I'm not going to understand what they're saying anyway. And because not established, but the ruling theory is that men are more logical, then they're going to say, all right, well, if my logic is going to solve this issue and I don't have to entertain something that I already know is not going to solve the issue, then by having a patriarchy, then yeah, eventually what's going to happen is the opportunity to fully express yourself is going to be stunted. The guy's going to already have that in the back of his mind, like, all right, whatever she's about to say is not going to be as logical as what I'm already thinking, because we already believe that it's coming from a place of emotion. And emotions are important, and emotions oftentimes, if you actually give them their due, can nip problems in the bud a lot quicker and a lot sooner than having to come up with a logical solution. But again, because it is a male-dominated society right now, avenues are not necessarily the first that are going to be taken, right?
Like that. Think of that, Big O. Think of if it was a female-dominated, so woman-dominated society, and we had to measure up to the bar of emotional intelligence.
Right.
So then, so even that. So right now, we're saying, oh well, maybe these ladies aren't, they're inadequate. Nah. Why would that be? We're inadequate, emotionally intelligent wise. So
right.
I think and that's what I'm saying, if we were to approach it that way, so I look at it, I get frustrated all the time, but I know that I'm lacking, that it's not necessarily her lacking. What I would like to see is a middle ground where there's some accountability on both sides, where maybe a lady's like, well, let me improve my logic. And if we as men are like, well, let me improve my emotional intelligence, and then we're walking that way. But usually it's somebody on the side like, you want to step up to my level.
Yeah.
And
that's what I'm 90% over here, you 90% over there. And then the 10% we fighting.
So really quickly, I have a question.
Yeah.
Changa, you're married, and Robin, you've been married. Mm-hmm. You feel like the communication or the understanding between you and your significant other has improved the longer that you've...
Hell no.
No?
They both said no. So with following up on Tricia's question, because do you think, I mean, you say that now in this scope, but there's definitely have been times, right, where there's got to be levels. It's not always,
No. 14
I was married for 30.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. We were together. We were married for 30. We were together for like 39 or whatever, but 38. But and there were definitely times. I don't think it would have lasted that long if there weren't ever time. I was not married to a marshmallow. I'm gonna tell you right now. So like, he would just, I need a challenge in my life. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I need somebody to challenge me. I'll be the first to admit it. So, he'd be that one that would walk out the door, and I'd be going, "What? Where are you going? Where are you going?" So there was definitely that give and take.
Don't FaceTime me while I'm out.
Yeah, where I had to back up and go, oh wow, he really just left, But I honestly, in my opinion, and in my experience, and I saw it with my parents too, I think, and I'm not speaking for men in general, so don't get me wrong, but the men that I know, I think they get tired. I think they get tired because they get used to you, right? Angus shaking his head. They get used to you. They know what they're going to have to deal with. They know they don't want to necessarily leave. It's not that bad, and they start to back up a little bit. Well, I got a real problem with people that back up. Like, I just keep coming. You know, I saw my mother do it the same way. I mean, this is my own therapy coming out. Like you know, me not wanting to be my mom kind of thing. Like my dad didn't deserve all that. And then all of a sudden I was seeing it and I'm like, oh God, here I go. Like, but I had to be the big girl and come up and go, you don't deserve all that. Like, you're a really great guy. Like, you don't deserve that. I don't want to be that way. I got a lot of, you know, stuff to deal with on my own. And, you know, I love you dearly. You do not deserve all that, you know?
So with that being said, Robin, do you feel that, like, because I want to give fairness to the other side, what do women get tired of to where, like, in their male counterparts, where they're like, all right, I'm backing up, maybe not again from the relationship, but from specifically something that they know about their significant other, where they're just like, I already know this is going to be an issue. I already know his triggers. I already know how he's going to respond, and I'm just tired.
For me, I think it changes with each individual. I really honestly do. I know for me, the more you back up, the more I'm probably going to come at you. Maybe not now because I'm tired too, but in my past, that's kind of way. And I start to lose respect. I'm putting myself out there right now. I start to lose respect for those that start to placate themselves, start to kind of just, you know what, just to back out a little bit. Cause I would rather you come head on. Really, like, you know, put me up against
I think there's a good I forget where it came from, but it was a kind of a good analogy where it was saying when the relationship is in danger, when one or the other don't care enough to argue.
Right.
That's when and so that's kind of what you're saying, where if they're just like,
it's easier for you not to deal with it. So now you're going to focus on something else. Well, now I got like 10 more things to come at you with, because now I'm feeling like I'm not heard. Now I'm feeling like I'm not being understood. Right. And here's another thing about, you know, men being logical and whatever. And this has happened so many times. And tell me if you think this is true. You know, let's say you've got an issue and you're in a relationship, and all of a sudden, you know, it's like, for the women, it's like the 10th thing, you know, and maybe he didn't answer my phone call, and it's like, you know what, I'm done. I'm out, it's over. Wow, all this because I didn't answer my phone. Well, in my head, I'm going, no, it was everything that led up to that. That was just the straw that broke the camel's back. And I actually physically showed somebody with a chessboard all the pieces on a board one day to try to explain myself. And they were like, women always got to be bringing up all this other stuff. Well, we harbor shit.
Yeah.
Sorry. We harbor stuff. And so it may have been a big deal at number one, but you didn't see
number 10.
It was a big deal. So we tried to get past it. And then number two, it was a little bit bigger. So by number 10, yeah, you're darn right. It was because you didn't answer that damn phone call. That's not why we're no longer a couple to then make me get out. And I don't think in my relations personally, I don't think we have ever fully understood that, because the man is always like, they always want to bring up all this old stuff. Well, it's not that I'm keeping it all in a file to throw at you. It's just that there have been things
unresolved.
I have verbalized them.
I don't know if that was what you were about to.
No, I was just going to say that's where the importance of self-work comes in. And honestly, my wife is better at that than me. She can let go. I mean, those principles of mindfulness, the last three, if you keep them in order, are acceptance and the last two, acceptance and letting go. Patience is a part of it. But if you can just renew, it's that Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore movie, 50,000 First Dates, where she wouldn't remember when she woke up, she wouldn't remember who it was. So each day, she was falling in love with him again, and that's that childlike curiosity that mindfulness tries to put on. So if you can become that sort of Buddha-esque kind of person and be renewed each day, man, you're in 90 years of blissful marriage, because it's really not about them. It really is, as Robin said, and I appreciate you sharing and putting yourself out there like that, Robin, because it really is that. It's really just all about ourselves. If individually we could sort of cleanse and let it be a fresh palette, then we'd be good to go.
I think, Robin, what you shared, I think that cuts both ways, which is what makes it. I think just the responses are different, right? So the same things that were swept under the rug, he might have his own, you know, what they call bag, right? The bag that you're carrying, just keep putting in the bag and keep putting it in the bag, and you're thinking like, all right, this bag is getting heavy. I'm about to be done with it. I don't even want to. I can't put anything else in there. So instead of bringing out each item and focusing on it so we don't have to deal with it anymore, it's just like, I'm gonna just let the whole bag go.
Right.
I'm gonna just drop the whole bag. So I think that's very, very, I wanted to ask, what are your take on, if there's such a well, it could be a misunderstanding, but it's such a difference among communication styles, right? Where do you see, for our listeners out there, where's the hope? How do we, I think Chenga alluded to with the self-work as much as possible, but also how do you find that balance, right? Where do you say to your partner, I wish you were a little bit more logical, and it's also express to your partner, I'm going to work on being a little bit more emotionally emotive and emotionally open. And then having some type of resolution for when one or the other is not feeling heard, how to recognize when that's happening, and what you can do to kind of.
I mean, I'll say something quick because I think Robin just hit it on the head. There's no real reason to go beyond it. But like, for instance, I'll use this metaphor. I got this tree outside my door and it's growing too high and it blocks the light from my solar panels. Can you stop? Can you be different? So why would we do that to a human being? Like, human beings have their own growth, just like that tree. They're getting light and water, just like me and you. So if you can't allow that human being, if you stupid enough to look outside of yourself for your own growth and comfort, it's never going to happen for you.
Right.
It just has to look. And that's why ultimately I get so frustrated with my wife, because I know it's about me. I know that everything I'm really throwing at her is she's just a mirror and it's about me. Yeah, I would never be stupid enough to go out there and argue to that tree. And I would just think, anyone listening, don't be silly enough. Like, you know, with Tricia's example, yeah, he didn't pick up the video call, but if you love him, you just love him. You just gotta let that shit go. And if you can't, and I know, and if you can't, then you got to move on. But knowing that, like, woo, I got to work on this, because if I can't let stuff go, I'm gonna lose Grant, Michael, Sean, whoever it is. It don't matter, because it's always gonna be a non-picked up video call,
something else.
It's always gonna be something.
And we're all, like we said, this is, you know, take everything we say with a grain of salt, because we're not subject matter experts. We're all sharing stories of our own individual journeys. And it just happens to be in the context of dating and relationships. Trish, you have anything to say before I wrap up? Or,
you know, truthfully, this is again, I feel like everything always boils down to communication. If you're with someone and you take the time to really learn and understand who they are in their intent, I think the intent has also a lot to do with it. We didn't get to that, so maybe we can talk about it another day. But I feel like if you learn and understand someone's intent, you'll know when they're doing something maliciously, when their intent is good, when their intent is bad. And it also makes communication a lot easier between the sexes. So with that being said, that's my final word.
All right. So I'd like to thank all of my guests. Chenga, Robin, thank you for returning. It's always a pleasure to have you guys on here. Co-host Tricia, can't wait to see where you're going to be next week, because I know we're not going to have you at home for long. But thank you guys. I want to thank Anna Banana, our producer, K.I. from Bedstuy, who is working diligently to help us keep bringing this content to you. Sound engineer and producer Bumpy, and in the infamous words of K.I., slow motion.
You've been listening to Talk It Over, the only dating relationship podcast that begins in bed. We hope you got what you needed. Make sure you subscribe. Holla at you next week.